Our next question is from Chris Keating. Chris.
The biggest issue of the year is the struggling economy, and so we'd like to ask you both about that. Mr. Blumenthal, as you've said here, you've called for middle-class tax cuts, but the Democratic leaders of both the House and the Senate in Washington have decided to postpone any votes on tax cuts until after the elections. Was that decision by the Democratic leaders wrong?
I believe that we should have voted, and the Congress rather should have voted right away before going home. I would have preferred, as other members of our delegation would have preferred, to have that vote sooner rather than later, because our middle-income families are struggling. And we need not only middle-income tax cuts now, without waiting for the wealthiest 2% to receive tax cuts, as my opponent has said we should, but also programs that build small businesses, provide them with the capital they need to expand. We need better trade policies so that we can export more from Connecticut. My opponent has taken the position that those middle-income tax cuts should be held hostage. I believe that tax cuts should go to those small businesses because they need them, and we should be supporting small businesses by targeting them with the benefits that we think they deserve so that they can create the jobs that we so vitally need in our state and our country. And we need to preserve the minimum wage. We also, by the way, in my view, should make a promise on this campaign trail to preserve Social Security, not impose a means test, not impose any age eligibility raise, and make sure that we keep our promises to preserve Medicare guaranteed benefits at their present level. My opponent says not appropriate for the campaign trail. I believe it is. I make that pledge.
Mrs. McMahon, with 10% unemployment in an ailing economy, more and more workers are being forced into minimum wage jobs. You said a second ago that you've been mischaracterized about the minimum wage and what you didn't say. Can you tell us exactly what is your position on the minimum wage and what role does that play in getting the economy back on track?
Well, we certainly, I would never advocate lowering or reducing the minimum wage, and that's not what I said. I said we need to take a look at whether or not we need to increase the minimum wage. And Congress looks at this all the time. I'm not sure how long the legislation is once the minimum wage is increased, but I know in some period of time. And I just think we need to always look at it and make sure it's in the right economic frame. But I never said we reduce it, we shouldn't reduce it, so I want to take it off the table. I've got to go back to something that Mr. Blumenthal said. He keeps coming about that these tax incentives would create jobs. Point of fact, WWE did create jobs, 52 new jobs in this digital media area. And that is something that I'm very proud of. We were able to grow because we made the company stronger. And you know what? Next year, because of the restructuring that was done and the smart business that was done relative to WWE, and let me just say, layoffs are hard. You know, they're really tough to do, but sometimes you have to make those tough decisions in order for your company to move forward. And as a result of that, today, WWE is about at the same level as it was before the layoffs in 2009, and because of tax incentives that are moving forward, and the new initiative of the WWE Network will add about 100 to 140 employees next year.
Mr. Blumenthal?
The record will show that when
our real unemployment rate is closer to 17%. When you count people who are working part-time and can't find full-time work, or people who've given up looking and aren't on the unemployment rolls, it's about 17%, not the 9 to 10% that they're talking about. This is our biggest problem. And I have a plan on my website on how to deal with this immediate issue, and I would like to give credit to Warren Mosler, the independent party candidate who's here tonight, because I've adopted many of his pieces of that plan. We do need more stimulus. We need to put more money in the hands of working people who are struggling to pay their mortgages and pay their bills. If we give them a payroll tax holiday, they will have more money to spend. That will stimulate the economy, more demand for goods and services, and it will create new jobs. It will also help small businesses. That 7.65% that gets taken out of your paycheck only comes out of the first $107,000 that people earn. It's the most regressive tax that we have. And every amount that's taken out of your paycheck, your employer has to write a check.
Mrs.
to the
McMahon, you
government.
talk
We'll talk about this more later.
often about your